All right, let's get started. When it comes to mysteries that have captivated humanity for centuries, few rival the Great Pyramid of Giza. I mean, it's just this colossal enigma, right? It's been standing there for, what, like 4,500 years, and we're still trying to piece together all of its secrets.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this giant puzzle in the desert, and we've only managed to uncover a few pieces. We've explored the passages we can physically access, and we've used various techniques to try and get a glimpse of what's hidden inside. But it's always felt like the pyramid was holding back, keeping its most intriguing secrets closely guarded.
It really does, and for so long we've had to rely on speculation and limited glimpses. But this research you sent me, it suggests a whole new way of looking inside the Great Pyramid, like really seeing inside without disturbing it in any way.
That's right. This is where things get really exciting. We're talking about synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, Doppler tomography. It's like giving archaeologists X-ray vision, allowing them to create a detailed three-dimensional image of the pyramid's interior, all while it remains perfectly intact. No chiseling, no drilling, just pure scientific ingenuity.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. So for our deep dive today, we're going to unpack this incredible technology, and we're going to explore the fascinating discoveries it's revealing about the Great Pyramid. But first, let's break down the basics. What exactly is SAR Doppler tomography, and how does it work?
Okay, well, imagine you're looking at a photograph taken with a shaky camera. The image is blurry, right? But what if you could take multiple photos from slightly different angles and then combine them, eliminating the blur? That's kind of what SAR does.
Okay, so it's like creating a super sharp image by combining lots of slightly different perspectives.
Exactly. In this case, the camera is a satellite, and the photographs are radar pulses. As the satellite moves along its path, it sends out these radar pulses, which bounce off the pyramid and return to the satellite. And by carefully analyzing the time it takes for these signals to return and the subtle shifts in their frequency, we can build an incredibly detailed image of the pyramid's surface.
All right, I get how that creates a really precise surface image, but how do we go from that to actually peering inside?
Well, this is where the magic of the Doppler effect and the analysis of micro-movements come into play. You know how a siren changes pitch as it approaches and then moves away from you?
Yeah, of course, the Doppler effect, right?
Precisely. That same principle applies to radar waves. As the satellite moves relative to the pyramid, and as the pyramid itself experiences even the tiniest movements, the frequency of the reflected radar signal changes ever so slightly.
Wait, hold on. The pyramid moves. I always thought of it as this immovable rock-solid structure.
Well, it's not moving in any way we can see with the naked eye. We're talking about micro-movements, incredibly subtle vibrations. Think about it. The Earth is constantly rumbling with low-level seismic activity. There's the hustle and bustle of Cairo not too far away. Even the flow of the Nile River contributes to these minute vibrations. And all of these vibrations travel through the pyramid structure.
So it's more like the pyramid is subtly vibrating, not actually shifting its position.
Exactly. And these micro-movements, as tiny as they are, become the key to unlocking the pyramid's secrets. Because different materials and structures within the pyramid will affect these vibrations in distinct ways. Some materials might reflect the vibrations, while others absorb them or alter their speed. And by carefully analyzing these subtle changes in the Doppler frequency of the radar signal from multiple satellite passes, we can begin to map out what's causing those changes, those internal structures.
It's almost like the pyramid is humming with these invisible vibrations, and we're learning to listen to its song, to decipher its internal structure from the way those vibrations are affected.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's a remarkably powerful technique. You see, traditional radar, which uses electromagnetic waves, struggles to penetrate dense materials like the granite blocks that make up the pyramid. But these micro-movements, coupled with the sophisticated analysis of Doppler tomography, they bypass that limitation, effectively rendering the pyramid transparent to this method.
That is so cool. It's like we're finally getting a glimpse behind the curtain into the heart of this ancient wonder. And speaking of glimpses, I understand that one of the first things this research revealed wasn't even inside the Great Pyramid. It had to do with its external shape, right?
That's right. Before we even delve into the inner secrets, this research had a surprise waiting on the outside. Using a technique called SAR interferometry, or INSAR, researchers discovered something rather unexpected about the shapes of all three main pyramids at Giza Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure.
Okay, I'm all ears. What did they find? Something other than the four perfectly smooth sides we always picture.
Precisely. It turns out those seemingly flat faces aren't quite as flat as we thought. Their analysis suggests that all three pyramids actually have a subtle eight-sided structure. Each face has a slight inward curve, a concavity, making it appear as though the pyramid has 8 sides instead of 4.
8 sides. That's not something you typically see in photographs or diagrams. How could they determine that just from satellite data?
Well, imagine looking at a topographical map with contour lines. Those lines represent changes in elevation, right? INSAR data provides something similar, but instead of elevation, it shows incredibly tiny changes in the pyramid surface. And the way these lines, these interferometric fringes, were oriented across the pyramid faces indicated this subtle inward curvature. And to make it even more convincing, they found supporting evidence for this 8-sided structure on the Pyramid of Khafre using LiDAR data. LiDAR is another remote sensing technique that uses laser light to measure distances with incredible precision. So having two different independent methods pointing to the same conclusion really strengthens the finding.
It's amazing how these advanced technologies are revealing details that have remained hidden for millennia. So we have these 8 sides, these subtle concavities. Do they have any idea what the purpose might have been?
Well, it's still speculation, but the authors point to some intriguing possibilities. They suggest that these inward slopes on each face might have played a role in controlling the flow of water down the pyramid sides. There have been theories suggesting a wetter climate in the past, perhaps even with a basin of water surrounding the pyramids.
Oh, interesting. So this subtle design feature could have been part of some sort of water management system.
That's what they're proposing. And it really makes you rethink the image we have of these stark, smooth-sided structures standing alone in the desert. It hints at a more dynamic relationship with the surrounding environment, a more nuanced design than we previously imagined. But, okay, let's move on from the outside and dive into what's truly captivating, what this SAR Doppler tomography revealed inside the Great Pyramid.
Yes, let's get to the heart of the mystery. What did they find?
Get this, they identified 20 previously undiscovered internal structures within the Great Pyramid of Khufu. This is huge. It completely changes our understanding of the pyramid's inner complexity.
20. Wow, that's a significant number. What kinds of structures are we talking about?
Well, they've categorized them into different types. There are corridors, some of which appear to be ascending and descending ramps, along with underground passages. They found various rooms, some potentially related to facilities near the sarcophagus passage, and others located at the bottom of the pyramid. And then there are what they describe as complex structures.
Complex structures? That sounds intriguing. Can you give us some specific examples of these newfound features and where they're located within the pyramid?
Absolutely. So imagine corridors on the east and west sides of the pyramid, starting near ground level on the north and rising diagonally upwards, reaching about halfway up the pyramid's height on the south side. They've called these the eastern and western ascending ramps. Then, right below the pyramid's base on the north side, they found what they've named the northern underground complex structure. This one seems to have a main horizontal body with several smaller passages branching off at right angles, almost like a network of tunnels beneath the pyramid.
Underground passages right at the base. That's pretty wild. So we have ramps leading upwards and tunnels running beneath. What else did they discover?
Okay, so above the well-known King's Chamber, they detected something they've labeled the Z complex structure. This is particularly interesting because it connects to another significant discovery, the Big Void. It's a large, roughly box-shaped structure, and they even found a link between these two, a Z-Big Void double connection. It suggests these structures might be related in some way.
A big void, that rings a bell. Didn't they find something similar using muon scanning a while back?
You're right, they did. But what's interesting is that the specific characteristics of the Big Void described in this SAR study don't perfectly align with those earlier muon scanning results. This raises some intriguing questions about the exact nature and location of this void, suggesting it might be more complex than initially thought.
So this new technique isn't just confirming what we thought we knew, it's adding layers of complexity and potentially prompting us to re-examine those earlier findings. And you mentioned they were able to create these images with a fairly impressive level of detail, right?
Yes, the resolution of their tomographic images is estimated to be about 0.92 meters. That means they can distinguish features roughly a meter in size, allowing them to not only detect these structures, but also get a sense of their dimensions and shape.
So we're not just seeing blurry blobs, we're getting relatively clear pictures of what's inside.
Precisely. And it's not just about finding new things. They also confirm the presence of known internal structures, like the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, the original Ved structure, the grotto, and even the unfinished room located underground. They compared their tomographic images with the existing diagrams of these known features, and there was a good match. which boosts confidence in the accuracy of this method.
That's reassuring. It means this technique isn't just conjuring up phantom structures, it's reliably detecting what we know exists, and then some.
Okay, so we have this much richer understanding of the pyramid's interior now. But the big question is, what does it all mean? Did the researchers have any thoughts on how to interpret these findings?
They did, and their hypothesis is pretty radical. It goes beyond the traditional view of the Great Pyramid solely as a tomb. They're proposing a fascinating hydraulic and acoustic function for these internal structures.
Hydraulic and acoustic. Okay, now that's something I didn't expect. That's a major shift from just a pharaoh's final resting place. What's their reasoning? Well, they suggest that the pyramid might have originally been surrounded by a water-filled basin, potentially connected to the Nile River. They propose that the internal ramps we discussed earlier could have played a role in circulating water within the structure, and also in helping to even out vibrations.
So they're saying water wasn't just around the outside, it might have been designed to interact with the internal structures as well.
Exactly. And they take it even further, assigning specific roles to different structures within this system. For example, they believe the massive granite Z structure above the king's chamber might have acted as a low-pass acoustic filter, allowing certain sound frequencies to pass through while blocking others.
A giant granite acoustic filter. That's wild. What about the chambers themselves?
They theorize that the king's and queen's chambers, along with the connecting shafts and the newly discovered voids, might have been part of a sophisticated system involving both water and sound. They draw parallels to things like Quink tubes, which are acoustic filters that use different pathways to cancel out specific sound waves, and Helmholtz resonators, which are chambers designed to amplify certain frequencies. They even go so far as to suggest that these structures might have been used for curative or therapeutic purposes, or perhaps for religious rituals.
Wow. So they're suggesting the pyramid wasn't just a solid mass of stone, but almost like a giant, carefully engineered instrument designed to work with water and sound. It's mind-blowing. And you mentioned that even the eight-sided exterior could tie into this.
Yes, they suggest that those subtle concave slopes on the faces might have helped to control the runoff of water in a specific way, further supporting the idea of a connection to a larger hydraulic system. All of these elements, from the external shape to the intricate internal layout, could have been part of a grand design that we're only beginning to understand.
It really challenges our assumptions about the capabilities of the ancient Egyptians, doesn't it? It suggests a level of knowledge and engineering prowess that we might not have fully appreciated before.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that while these findings are incredibly exciting, there are still limitations to this technology. For instance, while they can map these structures, they can't definitively determine whether they're solid or hollow spaces. The way vibrations propagate might be similar in both cases.
So we can see the outlines, but we can't say for sure what's filling those spaces.
Right. And they also mentioned that processing all the data to create these high-resolution images is extremely demanding, requiring significant computing power and time. But despite these limitations, the potential of this SAR Doppler tomography technique is immense. It could revolutionize how we study other ancient structures, not just pyramids, and even geological formations. It's like opening up a new window into the past, allowing us to see things that were previously hidden from view.
It's like having a new set of eyes, a way to perceive the world and the past in a completely different way. And to wrap up, did the researchers suggest any next steps or future research based on these discoveries?
They did. Based on this detailed mapping, they've actually proposed the possibility of creating a minimally invasive passageway to physically explore some of these newfound features.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to pinpoint a specific location based on this tomographic data and then carefully drilling a tiny access point to investigate further.
Wow, that would be incredible, to be able to physically enter and explore these spaces that have remained sealed for thousands of years, guided by this incredible technology. It's like science fiction becoming reality. So as we reach the end of our deep dive, what are the key takeaways from these fascinating SAR Doppler tomography studies?
Well, we've learned how this revolutionary technique allows us to make the Great Pyramid transparent, to see through its solid stone using the analysis of micromovements. We've uncovered evidence for a subtle eight-sided geometry in all three main Giza pyramids, a detail that might point to a more intricate relationship with water than we previously realized. And most significantly, we've delved into the detailed mapping of 20 previously unknown internal structures within the Great Pyramid, along with a bold hypothesis suggesting a potential hydraulic and acoustic function, going far beyond the traditional view of a simple tomb.
It's amazing to think that a structure that's been studied for centuries can still yield such groundbreaking discoveries. And it's a testament to the power of human ingenuity, both in the ancient world and in the present day. We're using cutting-edge technology to decipher the secrets of a civilization that existed thousands of years ago, and in doing so, we're reevaluating our understanding of their capabilities and their worldview.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this so fascinating. It's a continuous process of discovery and reinterpretation. Every new piece of information we uncover, every new perspective we gain, adds another layer to the story of the Great Pyramid, to the story of ancient Egypt, and ultimately to the story of humanity itself.
And for you, our listener, what new questions does this research raise for you? How does it challenge your assumptions about ancient civilizations and their capabilities? We encourage you to explore the original research papers, dive deeper into these findings, and continue to ponder the mysteries that the Great Pyramid still holds. After all, it's clear that this ancient wonder has much more to tell us, and we're only just beginning to listen.